Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. As promised, I'll be speaking on some things from the past state of the game and where it's going. Now, this video is for those of us who are still holding on to our guns with Clancy's The Division 2. And as my disclaimer has always said, I have said from, the onset that I am, one of the people who will ride this bumpy ride and see where it all ends up. So one of the really cool things, though, that I really wanted to basically put here, a little bit of self-promotion. For those of you who don't know, I wrote a book. It's a fiction book, and it's just a small story, beginning of a series. And so if you want to check it out, if you want something to read, if you want something to critique or review, go ahead and give it a look. It is the link is in the description. All right, enough self-promotion. Let's jump into the content. So the Division 2's raid has been scheduled for February. It was first delayed last year, or was it? I don't know. People are saying it might be coming as paid content, whatever. But there are a few things that will be noteworthy to maybe just announce or maybe share as something the community might be feeling. And the developers have always encouraged feedback, which the community is not short in terms of giving it, or which the community wastes no time to give. So I feel like we need to give feedback regarding the nature of raids in terms of the last raid and all. Now, don't get me wrong. There are people that are still playing the Division 2 that I see all over the place. Now, I am on PC, so my own perspective will probably be different from people playing on the PS4 or maybe playing on Xbox. One of the things about playing the Division on PC is the way the game is made is just very different. And so it's hard to find many beautiful looking action games of the nature of the Division 2, the way it actually performs and plays on a PC. I'm not here to, say anything. I just feel like the way the game is, it feels like they let loose on PC, so the game can look quite nice and it can flow in a certain way that makes people still play on PC. That's all I'm just saying. So you might see a continuous tick in players on the PC platform versus other platforms. And I know on the PS4 side, a lot of the community members talked about how the game struggled because its optimization was not necessarily the greatest on the PS4. And so that's another thing, that probably might be it. And then, you add all the other things to it, might make players be playing on different platforms differently. So this brings me to the raid and how the last raid, but it's Operation Dark Hours, was rolled out. Now, I remember when the first raid came out, I was all about the game having, the raid anyways, having accessibility where everybody could get in the door of the raid without any hassles, and to follow the tradition of ease of use, which the Division 1 and even for the most part a lot of the aspects of the Division 2 had established. And this is matchmaking. Now, for all the arguments anybody will raise against matchmaking, we can always raise arguments in the opposite perspective as well. Many people have said matchmaking is a disaster, it's a dumpster fire, but the truth is we can't necessarily tell if matchmaking would have been bad in the raid, since we never really got matchmaking in the raid. Now, you may jump to Discovery, but nobody plays Discovery for anything serious. The only time I played Discovery, we were goofing off. Okay? If you really want to play the raid, you want to play the raid. Players wanted to play the raid to enjoy the aspects of the raid that you could, basically enjoy. And the matchmaking thing is only on the forefront a matter of convenience. And then if you go deeper, it's probably a matter of increasing your possibility of beating the raid. Because you matchmake, you have the possibility of getting everybody necessary to play this raid on your team, and then you're able to communicate before you even launch the mission. I think that's the one thing people necessarily didn't comprehend. Once you get your matchmaking done, then everybody can jump on Discord. And if somebody doesn't have Discord or means to communicate, then that is grounds for them to be removed from the team. As crazy as it sounds, yes, the raid cannot necessarily be done with people being quiet. There has to be a level of communication that has to go in there. But at the same time, when a team is struggling and somebody eventually leaves the team, then what happens? Having taken anywhere from, maybe if you're lucky, 10 minutes, or if you have to stay and wait 45 minutes, this is even in the middle of when the raid was still very popular. Sometimes it took about 45 minutes, depending on the time of the day, to find a team. And when you put that team together, some people say, I only have a very limited amount of time to play. And if the raid does, even if they have a mic, they are on your Discord server, things may just not go as planned. And then they have to leave, and you can't force anybody to stay against their will, or you can't force the nature of players of Division to stay up late, because many Division players have things to do, like real life, and so they have to leave. And then you have to spend how long in searching for players or searching for other people who might fit the criteria that you're looking for. Perhaps somebody who has experience with the raid, perhaps somebody who has experience on maybe Station 4, perhaps somebody who has experience maybe running the circles, or people who have experience maybe with Buddy and Lucy. There's so many dynamics to the game that all of those layers of complexity, in my opinion, should have been at least reduced by a factor of 1 in terms of how people can get into the raid. And that is my argument. And I think the argument is one that a lot of the community shares. It's not a matter of being antisocial. It's not a matter of people not wanting to go join a Discord group. You can join Discord groups. They are there. It's just a matter of all the other conveniences that actually come with matchmaking for a raid. And again, being the first time that the Division community has actually undergone or has actually been, engaged or is engaging in a raid, however you want to put it, I think it was something that was a misstep for the developers and the community. The second side too was, even with the feedback that was given, the development team, they, in their minds, they held their ground, they stuck to their guns or whatever it was. And one of the things about the Division 2 that we've seen, or that we did see in the onset of the game, was how they really stuck to their guns at the expense of losing a lot of their assets and a lot of their publicity. Now, I will have to say this because it may seem, really petty, but from a content creator side, if you have a game and you allow for people to make fan content with your games, you have the benefit as a publisher and a development firm to gain popularity and actually have marketing done on your behalf and people still buying the game. Many of you, don't really know, but when I talk about Tom Clancy's The Division 1, you should see comments to the effect of people saying, I'm going to go back and buy this game, which is crazy. I'm not mad. I'm not saying I'm doing some kind of service for Massive. Ubisoft allows for content creators to use their content and monetize them. Some other companies don't do that. They don't let you do that. So it's nice to be able to, for them to be able to benefit and for us as content creators to benefit. But in this aspect, for you to have lost your number one content creator because you stuck to your guns, you lost somebody who was a valuable participant to the community. As much as you may have your critiques against Marco's style, it is actually, in my opinion, quite shameful to miss out on such a valuable asset to your brand. Sure, Marco was a goofball. His character, he's goofy, but he is quite knowledgeable about things regarding game design at a level that many people don't necessarily see it. He's just a young man that's bright in that area, to the point where Ubisoft and Massive at one point wanted to employ him. Now, I don't know their motives to want to employ him, but they wanted him to come work at Massive, which is crazy. I don't know if I've heard any story where they tried to employ a YouTuber because they felt that the YouTuber was able to provide valuable contributions to the game in terms of how it's developed and their brand. That is a compliment of a very different esteem. I don't know if Bungie ever reached out to any of their content creators to have them say, come join the team, whether they had no Now, they didn't say that. I have to be very careful. They said submit your application. But when people say submit your application, if you've been around the job world enough, you know that actually means we will be considering that application strongly. I'm not saying they're going to be saying we're going to be giving you a job. And so I feel like that's something that was very, very, very valuable to them. And for them to have lost that content creator, for them to have lost Marco Style to another game, that was his decision to move nonetheless. I'm not saying they should have been chasing around and begging him to. They've all had their history. I feel like that was not necessarily a sound direction for them to actually go. Now, what could they have done to stop Marco from leaving after the game had been released? I don't think much, but I think not listening to player feedback and taking that drastic direction into the Division 2 was too much of a hard shift. And not having a matchmaking system on our raid or big, team style mission, which is what the raid is compared to the incursions, is too much of a hard shift to put for the community right now. And many have said, all kinds of stuff against how it's going to be difficult. You always have a team leader. You always have the option to kick people. I mean, it's always there. If they are not responsive, if they don't have any way to communicate, that's another thing. Get a mic. It's one of the grand rules of doing a raid. So if you want to raid, you have to buy a mic. Now, you don't have to buy a high-tech mic. You just need to get yourself some earphone cheap mics so that you can communicate and you can listen to when, information is being given by the raid leaders or whatever it is. But at the same time, the ease of accessibility is a very big deal. So this is, in my opinion, one of the main things that needs to be shown in terms of, okay, community, we have been listening to you guys. We've delayed the raid, maybe once, maybe twice. I don't know how long, how many times, but at least we heard from one state of the game that they weren't going to be releasing it with episode 3, and now we heard that it's not even going to be, we heard that it's going to be later, and then we heard that it's not going to be in episode 3. So I think that's how we heard it, and then it got moved. So that is one aspect, and I think the major aspect, if anything, in terms of the mission design, in terms of how they execute it, I really don't have any problems. I actually do think Operation Dark Hours is actually a pretty decent raid. I don't think I've ever rated the raid, like how I feel about it. I don't think I've done a video as to what I think the raid, what kind of value the raid does provide in terms of gameplay mechanics and depth. I think it's actually very good. I think it was actually well done. Sure, it's a DPS check, but it does require a little bit more than that DPS check that we may be, talking about. It's DPS check and team coordination. And so hopefully they listen to the community in this regard. Hopefully they are able to take this to heart and say, this is our community. This is what our community feels is best for them in this sense. And they've provided feedback, and I don't know what the data is as to how many people even completed the first raid. I knew I did it, like, I think somebody said I did it 17 times. I've never looked at the raid leaderboards. I've never looked at that thing. I don't care. But somebody looked at my gamer tag and said, hey, you've done it 17 times. I said, oh, okay. Well, good to know. I mean, it was one of those things where I was like, okay, once I got the Eagle Bearer 2, which was given to me by a good friend, buddy of mine, I was like, that was probably maybe like when I started going like, okay, I think I've done enough raids. I need to spend time in real life. And so hopefully we can get that. I feel like it'll be a sign of, hey, community, we've listened to your feedback and we're not just going to listen, we're going to act upon it. So that's pretty much my own little feedback that I want to give in terms of the future raid that's coming. If you're here in the community and you have any other feedback, leave them in the comment section. I guess that's pretty much what we will have to be doing so that the developers know that they have the feedback that they need. And then it's to either their benefit or maybe loss. If they don't take the feedback, that's their business. And I guess that's all for today. And I'll see you in my next video. Peace.